Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I give you all of the latest gaming news. And there's been a lot of talk about the Xbox Series S and whether or not it can keep up with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. There has been some concern for this budget-friendly console so far, but one developer was absolutely glowing in his remarks towards the Series S. So I'm going to give you all of the latest on that. Also, it's no secret that PlayStation had a good year in 2020, and it sounds like their hard work paid off as they won big time last year. Yeah, we're going to talk about that as well, but we got a lot to talk about today, so let's get right into it, starting off with a game that I haven't heard about for quite a while, Biomutant. So there has been some concern among the game community that Biomutant may have been cancelled. This game was revealed way back in 2017 and was kind of always on a loose release schedule. It was always said to be coming quote-unquote soon, until eventually it just kind of vanished. Well, the good news is that it's back once again, and this time with an official release date. Yeah, we finally got a release date for Biomutant. It's set to come out on May 25th for the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and on a PC. Unfortunately, a Switch version is yet to be announced, but at least it's finally coming. I've always thought this game looked interesting. It's an action RPG with a unique art style. It blends realism with these cartoony animal-like creatures, and everything is just so colorful and in an apocalyptic world. It kind of contrasts really well together, and I personally think it's appealing. Now we just need to see if it's as good as what it looks. I have to say though that I love the fact that the Xbox Series and PlayStation 5 is backwards compatible. We're already seeing a few titles release as only last generation games, and it's nice that we can still play these games on newer hardware. It also helps that many of these older games runs better on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series as well. It certainly would have been disappointing if we had to wait all of these years to finally play a game like Biomutant and then be forced to play it on the Xbox One or PlayStation 4. This is just more reason backwards compatibility is just so important. Nonetheless, I'm still curious about Biomutant. I'm definitely going to try this one out when it releases in just a few months on May 25th. Let me know if you're looking forward to the long-awaited Biomutant. Now, I do have some good news for Nintendo fans. There's been a lot of speculation as to what Nintendo and the Pokemon Company are going to do for Pokemon's 25th anniversary this year. They've already revealed new Pokemon Snap, and I'm personally super excited about that game. I can't convey just how much I enjoyed the original on the Nintendo 64 as a kid. This really was one of my favorite games as a kid, so I'm definitely looking forward to this game. There's also some pretty juicy rumors of a Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remake, and even a Detective Pikachu sequel. So yeah, it's sounding like a huge year for both the Nintendo Switch and Pokemon. However, there's been a lot of speculation, and one spinoff that keeps popping up among the game community is Pokken. Now, Pokemon has had some pretty good spinoffs over the years, and Pokken is definitely one of the better spinoffs, being a 3D fighting game similar to the popular Tekken franchise. This surprisingly is a perfect combination, and it was one of the standout exclusives for the Nintendo Wii U. I know that console wasn't exactly a major success, but as somebody who bought the Wii U at launch, it had some great and underrated games. Luckily, many of the better Wii U games have been ported over to the Switch for new life, including Pokken. That's why a lot of fans would like a sequel, and it sounds like it might actually happen. Tekken director and Bandai Namco producer Katsuhiro Harada was asked about a sequel, and this is what he had to say. "We have a good relationship with Nintendo and Pokemon Company, and Pokken has received great response, so I would like to do it again. But it's not what we decide, it's what they decide." So from this response, Bandai Namco would likely be on board for a Pokken sequel, but unfortunately, you have to get Nintendo and the Pokemon Company on board for something like this to happen. Well, fans have also been requesting a Pokemon Snap sequel, and that only took 22 years to happen. Yeah, it's hard to tell if this will get a sequel anytime soon, but at least the Tekken director from Bandai Namco is on board. Also, Konami was in the news yesterday. We don't really hear much about them anymore, and there has been a lot of speculation that they're kind of exiting the game industry, or at least on the console side of things. We have seen them focus less on hardcore games as of late. Fans were kind of freaking out about this at first because it was reported that they are dissolving their production divisions to respond to the rapid market that surrounds them. This did create some confusion, as many fans assumed that they were dissolving their game division and that they would be selling their IP. That would obviously be huge, as they have some major franchises like Metal Gear Solid, Castlevania, Silent Hills, and the list goes on and on. so fans immediately started to guess as to which company is going to buy these franchises. However, this is not the case. Instead, they're actually restructuring and are still making games. So the response was a little bit more dramatic than what it should have probably been. And okay, I can understand that because Konami has kind of dropped the ball as of late in terms of their games. I know fans want to see more from them, but they're not going to sell their IP anytime soon. In any type of business like this, IP is incredibly important. Even if they don't make games, those IP still carries a lot of weight and they can still make money off of them. As an example, Netflix just made a Castlevania series. That's one way Konami can make money off that franchise outside of gaming. With that said, the chance of them actually selling any of their IP is unlikely for the time being. However, they could do partnerships which could benefit both parties. There has been a long-running rumor that both Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hills is in development over at PlayStation. Bluepoint is believed to be working on a Metal Gear Solid remake, which would be absolutely amazing if true. Bluepoint does an incredible job on remakes, as shown with both the Shadow of Colossus remake and more recently, Demon's Souls. I would definitely be on board for that, but that's all just rumors as of this moment. I could see Konami doing some partnerships though, and that would be great in my opinion. It would be nice to see them make some kind of return this generation, so hopefully we do get something from Konami during this generation. Next up, let's talk about PlayStation. As we all know, PlayStation had a big year in 2020. They released several high-profile exclusives, including Ghost of Tsushima, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Demon's Souls, and Spider-Man Miles Morales. They also released the heavily criticized and highly celebrated The Last of Us Part 2. This is definitely one of the more polarizing games that I've seen in gaming, which makes a lot of what's happening even more interesting. Yeah, so check this out. The Last of Us Part 2 is now officially the most awarded game of all time. It has now won 261 Game Awards, surpassing The Witcher 3 with 260. That is insane, and it's really interesting as well. I've seen certain games over the years that kind of gets put into that category of you love it or you hate it. Final Fantasy VIII immediately comes to mind, but The Last of Us Part 2 takes it to a whole new level. It's winning a ton of awards, and anytime that there's a discussion over this game, there are some very divisive opinions. I personally like the first game better than Part 2, and it wasn't necessarily my personal game of the year, but I respect those who love this game. What I will say about The Last of Us Part 2 is that on a technical level, it's top of its class. Naughty Dog put this game into a league of its own. The attention to detail, the intimate brutality of the combat, and just everything was so exceptionally done well, and in that regard, it is among the best in the game industry. It's a very impressive game, and I'm really excited to see what Naughty Dog will do next. As always, Naughty Dog is clearly one of the most talented studios in the entire game industry, and it really shows with The Last of Us Part 2. Outside of just how impressive it is though, a lot of the criticism among fans is more geared towards its story, which some seem to love while others don't. There is a character in this game that does something pretty early on that some fans just can't forgive. Now that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad story, but it does spark some strong emotions, hence a lot of its controversy. That might be a testament of just how good it is because it can spark those emotions, or bad depending on who you ask. And that is something to keep in mind. A lot of the times, the online game community can be very vocal, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the majority feels that way. It did come in second in fan voting in the Game Awards behind Ghost of Tsushima. So even there, you can see a lot of fans really like this game. I will ask you though, did you like The Last of Us Part 2, and do you agree with it being the most awarded game of all time? Let me know in the comments below. On to our final topic though, the Xbox Series S continues to impress. This has been a hot topic for a while, and whether or not the Xbox Series S can keep up with the Series X and PlayStation 5. There for a while, there was also some confusion as to if this is a true upgrade over the Xbox One X. Well, so far, the Series S is proving its worth, and yes, it is a big upgrade over the Xbox One X due to its dramatic improvement in processing. Yes, the Series S is more of a 1080p machine, but 60 frames per second is a huge improvement over 30 frames, and fans are definitely starting to take notice of this. As for developers though, what's their opinion on a Series S now that it's been out for a few months? So check this out. A developer over at Bloober Team said he was blown away by the Series S while playing their upcoming game, The Medium. He apparently played the whole game on the Series S without even realizing it. He actually thought he was playing on the Series X the whole time because it looked and played that good. Now that speaks volumes on how impressive the Series S actually is. In the past, Bloober Team has claimed that the reason the Medium is an Xbox Series exclusive is because they would have had to compromise their vision too much to make it work on last generation consoles. However, it seems to work perfectly fine on the Series S, which continues to show its worth early on. Now, he does mention that of course the Series X will look better thanks to its higher resolution. That's not really a big surprise, but it didn't stop him from being impressed by what the Series S has to offer. If you are on the market for a new Xbox console though, the Series S is a viable machine if you don't mind some of the sacrifices it makes in comparison to the Series X. There's always going to be that gap for resolution, and in some games it may have some lower graphical options, but again, if you wanted an affordable introduction to a next generation console that seemingly has consistently reached 60 frames per second, yeah, it's a viable option, and once again, it shows with the Medium. Even the developer was blown away by its capabilities, so kudos to Xbox on making it an affordable next generation console. As for the Medium, I think that game looks excellent and it will be releasing later this week on the 28th, so do keep that in mind as well. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.